All right, everybody. Welcome to today's call. It is my favorite day of the week, as you know, Friday, May the 3rd, 2019, and this is the TRC sales training call, which I'm very excited to do because it has been a week of talking about scripting and getting organized and finding what works. We were just talking about that in my office here, but I have a lot of people in the hot seat today that I have Voltaire and his sister Vanessa, who have inspired me to dig in deeper to internet buyer leads and how to appropriately handle them, what we know from the past about establishing timing, motivation, are they working with anybody? All that sort of thing has evolved into, that's great, but what about the offer that we're making, and why do we keep defaulting down to something about distress sales or off-market properties, making ourselves sound devalued? Right? Sort of like the listing situation where you dive right in for price and you just compromise what your value is. And I'm concerned about that. So that has to do with the offer. However, having said that, my emphasis here today is to really focus in on scripting, to make sure that you understand fully. I believe in scripts. I prefer to call them beats when we go through them, but absolutely am I not interested in my company, any of you, doing this on muscle, because you will lose. The minute you begin to believe that it's going to be done on muscle, or in other words, you're going to be able to use technique and tactic. I've been using that term a lot lately, simply because in observing Autumn, who's joined our team with 35 years of experience, there's no doubt about it, technique and tactic are obviously in place, in full effect, and effective. However, she has to plug into a systematic approach that we have in real estate, which she's never done before. And it's important that the beats that I need hit are hit so that we're successful. And that's working for us. I have been on multiple listing presentations already. We're warming up our first probate, but we're going to now open up the lane with buyer internet leads again, which we've had closed down for a little while because we were losing our capacity to follow up on them. And you know I'm not happy when I can't follow up on leads that I generate. So today's main focus is a continuation of what we did yesterday in the mastermind, which was to get after some real language here in a formulaic way. For all of you mastermind members, I do have the mind map updated. I worked on it prior to the call. I will be putting that up in the Teachable site for your full access to that as we are speaking, or when we finish speaking here today, because I want to make the refinements on this internet buyer lead. Paul Cantu, you'll be happy to know that I still did deal with voicemail. I'm not going to duck my head in the sand. I know that some of you, no matter what we talk about here, are going to leave voicemail, and in some cases may be effective. So we'll deal with best practices. But again, I will say, most importantly, is that I want everybody to understand, if you're not talking to people, then you're really kicking the can down the road at your own success. And I certainly don't want that to happen. I want you to have at least the milestone success that we're having right now, which are conversations that are substantial. These people appreciate what we're offering. And that's where I come back to the offer, which is help, guidance, insight. In any context. And in our case, it's been 2 contexts so far, expireds and probates. And again, coming back around towards internet buyer leads. I do also have the benefit of having 3 business development advisors and that's what they're called at the team at Metro City in Ottawa. I have Pat, Dave, and Sarah, all of who have experience on the phone and are very good at what they do, but they've made adjustments over the last years, especially Pat and Dave. I had the ability to have them on here as guests in the past, dealing with these internet buyer leads. So we're going to get a little insight from them on their evolution, and we're going to look for best practices here today, okay? So that should set us up ready to go. So Pat, Dave, Sarah, Voltaire, Vanessa, any of you that want to dive in, this is about you and for you primarily. You are my hot seat guest today. So I'm going to undo everybody's mic. Remember, this is a live call, so if you're live with me inside the call, you have to *6 me if it's in a noisy spot. All right, here we go. Pat, Dave, Sarah, do I have you guys?
We're here. Hey, Danny, how are you?
Hey, Sarah.
Hey, Danny.
Hey, guys. How you doing? Fantastic. Appreciate you being here. That's number 1. Number 2, I am looking for Voltaire or Vanessa. Do I have either one of you? So just so I can acknowledge that.
Yes.
Okay, buddy.
I'm on board.
Okay, cool, bud. You feel free, because it sounds like you're mobile, you feel free to dive in here at any point in time. But the first order of business here that I want to go through is I want to read Voltaire so that you can hear what I did after yesterday's call. I went and I put a section in the prospecting formula mind map. Okay, I want to make sure that for certain before the weekend, you and Vanessa have a copy of that. Of course, the rest of you will have it too. But here's what I gleaned from that. For buyer internet leads, Voltaire, using the concept of what you and I both knew to be the universal callback script, and now, getting a little bit into some of the things we all felt qualitatively and organizationally were missing. Here's what I came up with. Hi, this is Danny Griffin from Griffin Realty Group. The reason I'm calling is I want to thank you for using our website, thegriffin.co, to look for properties online. I want to make sure it's sending you the right types of properties, the ones you want to see. And I would take a beat there, Voltaire. That would be my first beat. The next one would be, hey, are you looking for yourself? And I thought that was probably something that I've done successfully in the field that gets them really, it's not such a direct question that it gets them, to a yes or no, as much as it does, it throws them off a little bit, right? Are you looking for yourself? Because sometimes people aren't. They're looking for, a friend, a daughter, a son, somebody, a cousin. So I think that just gets them a little bit more conversational. And then to get into the stuff we always talk about, why are you thinking about making this move, right? And that's something that Autumn and I have been testing a lot lately and finding great success in. That is really almost challenging them to say, as if, do you really want to go through this? This is no easy task. And she did that yesterday on the sell side with success. So I threw that in here. Remember, I'm just throwing this up on the board. The next question I had here was, are you going to make that move inside the next 6 months? And so instead of saying 3 to 6 months, I said inside of 6 months. And the reason is I'm trying to make the conversation simpler in somebody's mind. If it's inside of 6 months, that's a relatively short period of time for a buyer. And Sarah Corey, when she was talking about this yesterday, prepping for this call, I asked specifically, Sarah, Dave, and Pat, I asked her specifically for internet buyer leads. What were you really up against? What were you seeing was happening? And she said, anywhere from 7 to 12 months was sort of the standard fare, other than the ones you're able to get right off the bat. And that would be more like an agent locator for you all, market leader, sync, all these, lead generation companies. We're going to see that there's a lot of it that's 7 to 12 months-ish, let's call it 6 to 12 months, as a second tier longer term follow-up. So I was really looking for that buyer who will give you that initial call and information that they're inside of 6 months. Could be a month, could be 6, but I think those get treated in a specific way, in a little bit more aggressive way to grab the bull by the horns. The next thing I had is, do you have to sell a house first? You already own one, right? So no matter how you ask that, that's the key. And I was trying to be more conversational. Do you rent or do you own? Very rhythmic stuff, and it works. But do you have a house to sell first is another way to say that I thought was conversational. I threw that in there.
Always conversational.
Right. And then, is there an agent helping you yet? Is there an agent helping you yet? Versus, are you working with an agent? Is there an agent helping you yet? Okay, because what I've just rattled off in my mind's eye is a pretty heavy conversation about a lot of stuff going on. Is there anybody helping you yet? Right? Is the essence of that question. And then lastly, has a lender given you a pre-approval letter, or are you paying cash? Another way of saying, are you working with a lender? But has a lender given you a pre-approval letter, or are you paying cash? And I'm sort of leading the witness here with the way that I'm asking this to set this up so that I can show value next. Now, what I put down, and this was the big bone of contention, Voltaire especially, right, was the offer. So here's what I said. What we could do is set you up directly on the multiple listing service to receive the best properties like realtors. These updates would include sold properties as well, so you can see what the money's actually buying. I thought that was a big, important point that I keep emphasizing. The next point is it would also include off-market properties. But I went on to explain, Voltaire, such as expireds, canceled, and withdrawns. Now, if you wanted to add something like that, like pocket listings, knock yourself out. Distress sales, knock yourself out. But there's my context of what it would also include. We find that our clients found the best deals this way. Does that sound like it might be helpful? So in a narrative form, let me read the whole offer. Hey, what we could do is set you up directly on multiple listing service to receive the best properties like realtors. These updates would include sold properties as well, so you can see what the money's actually buying. And of course, it would include off-market properties such as expireds, canceled, withdrawns. We find that our clients found the best deals that way. Sound like it might be something you'd be interested in? Sound like it might be helpful? I'm trying to get it all up on the board today. I'm not saying it would sound like that, but I think those are the critical points that we came from, okay? So that gives us enough to, chew on here as we start this call, but I just wanted to get us rolling. Voltaire, any comment on that before I go to the team up in Ottawa? Any thoughts?
Yeah, I mean, the thought I have is, yeah, it sounds good. The part where you said include sold, so you know what your money's buying. My first reaction to that was just it sounds like maybe over complicated for, like, let's say a first time buyer or somebody, where they're like, what does that mean? I don't know. I mean, that's what I thought, but other than that, everything else sounds pretty on point.
Yeah, I'm surprised you reacted to it that way. Go deeper. Tell me a little bit more about that, because I really have found, let me tell you why I think that's important. I think what the problem is, and it's almost warming up the problem. The problem is that there's too much information. There's too many choices, right? You can't really weed through all this stuff that easily. So I think it's important to get them understanding that your value is, and you already have one of the beats of the value, off-market properties, right? I just didn't want that to be some really difficult thing to do. Any of you could go into the MLS right now, pull a list of expireds, canceled, withdrawns, and give that to them. Those are all off-market properties. Those are all things that may match their criteria, where what a great reason to call an expired if you have a legitimate buyer looking in that legitimate area at that legitimate price, to pick them up and say, I'm working with Sally, and I'm looking at off-market properties for her in addition to what's on market, and you happen to be there. Would you mind if I showed it to her? Now, instead of this nonsense that's out there, Voltaire, about expireds, that really works well. Coming back to the solds, though, the very fact that I'm even mentioning expireds tells you what? The buyers are staring at a lot of overpriced properties, and they don't know that without your guidance, right? I'm not saying that they don't have some clue of what's overpriced, but I'm saying without really knowing what the money's buying in that category, there's a lot of confusion. So I'm surprised that you were confused by saying, like, let me show you solds so you can see what the money is buying. If that language is confusing, say, let me show you what's selling so you can match up your pre-approval with that and tell me which ones you would have bought. I mean, there's a whole bunch of ways to say it, but I think that's our fiduciary responsibility. What do you think?
Yeah, I just think we got to dumb it down. To me, it just sounds too complicated. Or maybe, like you said, there's a lot of information out there. Almost information overload or overload, but maybe it's not. Maybe we just need to dumb it down and just make it super simple for a regular person.
Take a shot at it. I'm with you. Voltaire, hang on. I'm with you. Take a shot at it. I'm with you. How would you say that? Can you think of another way to say that? Because I still think it's a huge value. Remember what you said to me? Same thing a lot of people say, is that, well, I'm getting properties from everybody. Well, wait, are you getting properties from MLS? Yes. Are you getting properties that sold? No. Why is that important? Well, I mean, if you're selling, certainly it's obvious that those are affecting your value. And if you're buying, it shows you what kind of deals buyers are actually getting. Like if I just left it that simply, I'm going to hit them with the logic hammer. So you want to take a crack at editing it from there? Anybody want to take a crack at editing from there? I mean, anybody want to go with, the vein that he's on here and help? What do you think?
No, I think that what the information you gave was really good. I find that up here in Ottawa, when we do speak to people, they actually really enjoy the extra information.
Yeah.
I feel like because there's so much data to look at, whether it's online or the news or radio, podcast, there's so much information out there. So people are very educated. So we have to make sure that we're armed with the right information and sound like the expert.
Yeah.
So it's almost really nice to be able to say, well, you know what? Based on your matches, and say you like 1, 2, 3 major, but you know what? It's homes in this area actually selling for this much.
Mm-hmm.
So then we're telling them that they're making a smart decision and what they should be paying.
Yeah.
So no, I really like that.
Yeah, for sure. Well, because that is your value. That is your insight, right? And so ultimately what my concern, by the way, who was that speaking? Was that Hannah or Sarah?
That's Sarah. We're from Ottawa, Metro City.
Sarah, nice to have you here. By the way, I know your
Glad
resume.
to be here.
Yeah, I know your resume rolls down the street. So I'm thrilled that you're in here. So go a little bit further with that with me. My thought was this, Sarah, is that isn't it your insight on the phone and follow up? I mean, you've had long-term follow-up experience. So isn't it you that's valuable to them? Like Vanessa for Voltaire, isn't that the value? And when you are being that person that's working for them for free before they go out and do something with somebody, I mean, that's super valuable to me, right? I mean, how many people are going to offer, their company's free guidance until you're ready? That's my first thought. But my second thought was, tell me what you're doing in your experience. What are you doing when you have these follow-up calls with people over that 6 to 12 months time frame? What do you do?
My role is to build a relationship, creating a rapport that even if there is no real commitment yet to that person, if they need information about real estate, guess who they're going to come to? They're going to think about me because I've consistently stayed in touch with them, given them updates about the marketplace. So I become their point of contact, even though we haven't been met face to face yet.
Yeah, agreed. Now, tell me the context. How do you build relationship? Because that's the key point here. And I'm going to come back to the initial conversation with all of this in mind. See, what I'm trying to do, Sarah, is get everybody attached to what you're talking about. So the reason I'm going there first is so we can bring it back to the initial call script to make sure it's in there somehow, even if it's the underlying belief system for what we're saying as to what will happen. We're casting the story framework for them of how this relationship will be. So tell me about the story. Think to somebody specifically that you've worked with over a long period of time. What did you say when you called up each time? What did you talk about?
I'm just trying to think of the situation. It's more so like, hey, how's it going? I promised I'd check in with you in the summertime. I know you were thinking about possibly making a move this coming winter time. How have things been? Has anything changed since the last time we spoke?
Okay, good. All right, so there's the relational stuff. And my point is this, is that if we set them up to receive property updates, which, by the way, is what Sarah brought up yesterday about agent locator leads, for example, and we're talking about internet buyer leads today. I can shift into others too, no problem. But I want to do the service to the group and make sure the touch is on internet buyer leads. Why? They are some of the furthest away from now on average of any type of lead that you'd be following up on, okay? So in other words, most of those people who have, thought themselves into the little Google search bar have been captured by Google AdWords, and then they end up in your agent locator and they end up on your daytimer. Now you have to pick up the phone and call those people, right? So my point is, what's the value that they want? They want properties, period. I mean, we just need to state the obvious in this case is they want access to properties. And an agent locator, as we discovered yesterday that you guys are using, that's what they're expecting to get. And they have given you currency in exchange for that access. Let me explain what I mean. The minute that somebody gives you their email, their telephone number, and their name, that is their currency in exchange for access to properties. You with me? Okay, so I've made a currency exchange. I expect something, and probably pretty instantaneously, right? So all of this internet instant gratification, here comes my currency of my info. I expect this list to come back. And so what I have is the mastermind members are really thinking about that front end experience because that's how it arrives to you, Sarah. So for you to understand and ride along that beam of light as Einstein did figuring out the law of relativity, he rides along that first step and it arrives at the next step and he says, this arrives from agent locator. Did they get a list? What did it look like? And it's a one-off event. So a lot of the currency exchange is I get this for you, I give you that. And that's in Canada. In the United States, most of the time, it is a sign up for continuous access to properties for sale. Okay. So there's a more continuity built in, which is wonderful because now there's some ongoing relationship around what they want, but you have to all of a sudden pick up the phone and interrupt them. You tracking me? Because you really are an interruption at that moment in time because they saw this currency exchange for either one-off list or better yet, continuity of access to properties through your website. So now we have to pick up the phone and say, hi, Sarah, it's Danny Griffin calling from Griffin Realty Group. I'm interrupting you, okay? But the reason I'm calling is I have context with you. You gave me your currency, meaning your information, in exchange for access to properties. I want to make sure they made it to you okay. Now, of course, I'm giving you all the thinking points. That's not the dialogue, but I'm just trying to walk you through the true narrative that's really happening here. We have to give it the true context it deserves, okay? So your number one job on an internet lead, whether buyer or seller, either case, but especially buyers, did you get the list of properties that you expected to get from our website? Yes or no? The reason I'm calling is I'm the concierge desk and I am in charge of making sure that that first interaction with Metro City is solid and sound. That's my number one job, right? And see, that's all about them. And so a lot of times with these callback scripts, we're not just taking that breath to say, here's who I am from this company. I'm calling you because we have this relationship that started online. I want to make sure we held up our end of the bargain for you. Pat, Dave, Sarah, all of you tracking me on this? Because you can interrupt me here and have a conversation two ways with me. I just want to make sure you understand where I'm coming from.
Yeah, we follow, Danny.
Okay, cool. Sarah, anything you want to add to that before I go on?
No, I mean, we do, we started off with things going off really, really well. We tried the distress list, and that worked really well. Because at the end of the day, buyers, they want deals. And I think the biggest thing is, well, they're online Googling and they're going to get hit by different teams. So we always have to make sure that we're able to provide something that they may not be getting.
Stop there. Hold on. Stop there. I love that nugget. Let me hold on to that nugget. Okay. Say it again. They want what?
They want the deals.
Okay. Well, hold on. You said something else. That's what your perception is. And it's partly right. And this is the whole point here with Voltaire. I get that. You think that's true because you've been trained to think that way. And it works a lot of the time. But it's my experience that that's not all they want. And that's why I'm asking you what you say over the long term. Because if you're just calling up trying to do this on relationship, hey, are you ready yet? Are you ready yet? Has anything changed yet? That is going to bore them pretty quickly. See, if I call you up and I say, Sarah, it's Danny. We talked last month. And I just want to make sure you were still getting those properties we're sending you because it was a really juicy deal in there, right? In fact, it was one of our clients that bought it, and I wanted to show it to you as an example. It's 123 Main Street. You see this? Smoking hot deal. Did you see that in your inbox? If not, I've taken the liberty to resend it to you. Now, that is way more interesting to me as a buyer than, are you ready yet? Are you ready yet? And I'm exaggerating the point. I don't think anybody in this group sounds like that. But I do believe what we're missing is what's important to them. See, we think because we've sold ourselves heavily on the fact that they want a deal. Sure, everybody wants a deal. But I've seen people want a house so badly, getting it at a deal was irrelevant. Was irrelevant to them. I mean, I've been doing this for 20 years with hundreds of homes sold. I can tell you there are plenty of times when people come in and said, yeah, just don't bicker with them too much. I want that house. A lot. So we can't always presume that everybody's looking for a deal, meaning a steal. They're looking for a fair deal. They're looking to be educated about what a fair deal is. Am I overpaying for this? Nope, you're right in line. In fact, I can't find any evidence to say you should beat them up. In fact, I think if you procrastinate too much, you're going to have some competition. That's insight. And I'm telling you, Sarah, in my experience, and pretty successfully at this, that insight is the most valuable thing I offer. Okay, that's just my look at it's. Yeah, come on, go ahead, Dean, jump in.
Can I touch on something?
Okay.
I think every buyer goes online for one of two reasons: either they're looking for the deal, or they're looking to solve a problem. And I think that's what we have to differentiate very early on in the process.
Why do you believe that? Why do you believe it's those two things?
I think those are the two most common. Why do I think that? Because that's what I hear all the time when I'm on the phone with people.
Yeah.
Well, when you find me a good deal, I'll go look. Or I'm looking for this. And when you get to the why, okay, great. You got a kid. You got another one on the way. You're living in a 1-bedroom apartment, or you're living in your in-laws' basement, kind of thing. And I think from a first-time buyer standpoint, they're looking at it because they don't know what they don't know yet. And I think that's where the guide has to come into the process and listen carefully, which is why I think there are so many decision diamonds after every question that could lead you in more than just one or two different ways.
Yeah, there's no doubt, but it's interesting to me to see how locked in everybody is into the way that they think, which I was for quite some time, and I'm trying to challenge myself in this thinking too. And this is why I'm going after it. This is why I'm talking about this offer. I'm going to ask you, as somebody who has had inside sales folks working from before. By the way, Sarah, I learned this from somebody who did the BDA work, as you're called, for me. I learned this from her, Colleen. She turned to me one day and said, Danny, you keep telling them it's this access to properties that's valuable. That's ridiculous. It's the fact that you pay for me to follow up with them about the properties. So this lesson came to me from somebody that was actually doing the job, and pattern interrupted me to think, well, wait a minute, that's right. And Dean, if you do it yourself, it's your time. It's the value of your time. And then you're right. What takes people in multiple different directions is the type of conversation we're having with them, which is why scripting should become an obsession. And it should always be listened to and see what direction is it taking us in. Are we charting a course that takes us into a corner that's difficult to get out of, is my challenge to you and Sarah right now. If you, and
Danny, I really like that, because questions really help you to learn more about what the buyer wants instead of us thinking what they do want. However, I mean, that's why asking why questions, when, all that, whether it's a buyer or a seller, is really important, because it takes us out of our preconceived notions and allows us to listen to what they have to say. And of course, there is scripting that needs to be done. There's questions that need to be asked. But it's true, like Dean said, there's two different kinds of buyers. And I really think questions are important.
Yeah, for sure. And it needs to be this obsession, certainly, because here's the point that you heard the belief system being so strongly rooted about distress sales in Sarah. I know her background, so I get it. I know why. And I'm challenging it today as I did. Dave, Pat, you guys can probably speak to this about appointments and the pressure that was on you two not too long ago for just to pound away for appointments and leave all the rest to the street. You want to comment on that piece of it?
Yeah, my mentality sort of shifted in a positive direction in that regard. Is if I've had a call with someone and I've successfully scheduled a follow-up call with them, and they're aware that, hey, I'm going to touch base with you in 3 months or 6 months or whatever it is, I consider that a success too. So the whole pressure for appointments and stuff like that is sort of evaporated. That's how I feel about it. And I mean, it's actually paid dividends in that I'm getting appointments easier because of it.
Okay, come on, keep coming. You're getting appointments from whom easier? Tell me, be specific, because I want everybody to hear the converted based in reality, right?
Well, not only the follow-up calls are better, but the first-time calls, people that are ready to meet right away.
Yeah.
I'm not forcing them to do it. You know, I'm really digging deeper and seeing what they need. And if I think that they could use an appointment, I get genuinely excited for them to actually meet with one of our agents, because I mean, it will be a benefit to them.
Excellent.
So it's just
Perfect.
easier. It's easier to meet someone when that's the case, instead of thinking, gosh, it'd be really good for me if an agent met this person.
Yeah, beautiful. Hang on to that thought right there, because you can see the value in the agent going out. Why? I want you to imagine that moment that you set that up and you know that the agent's going out. Give me a scenario of why you get excited about, make it up, not make it up. Pick one of your real scenarios. Why? What do you know the agent is going to do for that person when they meet with them? What is it?
Well, I mean, for starters, there's a lot of people that are just lost out in the woods there. They know that they want to move, but they don't know the first thing about how to go about doing that. And some people, they don't even know, you know, am I going to get a new build, or something that is built, you know, in the last 2 years might actually be better for me. That is on the market instead of something that hasn't been built yet.
Stop. Bravo. Dean, Sarah, I was biting my tongue the minute it first came out of his mouth. They don't even know what they want.
They don't know what they don't know.
They don't even know what they want. And like Autumn just said, they don't know what they don't know. But yet, what Gail picked up on, and what I was saying to Sarah and Voltaire about Vanessa, we are presuming that what they want universally, he said about a universal callback script and why it's dangerous. That word is dangerous. We believe universally that everybody is after a deal. And that brings us down a path that we paint ourselves about distress sales, bank foreclosures, off-market properties.
Yeah.
We put ourselves into one category when we make that first presumption that what's most important to them is a deal. And in fact, I'll make the argument we rush it. And Pat, that was you speaking just now, right?
No, that was Dave.
Dave, sorry. Dave, what you didn't do was rush anything there. You actually said that your adjustment has been to listen. So tell me now about that first call. How do you go about this discovery, and what do you say? If you don't have that pressure anymore and appointments are coming easier, when everybody hear you say that, right? They're coming easier to you. Are you more successful doing it this way or less?
Oh, it's night and day. Night and day, Danny. More successful easily.
Okay. And so in numbers terms, any idea what percentage increase in successful appointments? Any of the metrics? I know Sarah's off today and she usually has those. Any guesstimate on the math so people hear?
I don't think I could quantify it.
Okay, no biggie, because I know Sarah has that. But go into why, at least qualitatively, you are saying this. What does more successful mean to you?
Well, I mean, more successful. Well, I'm happier at my job. I'll tell you that much.
Okay.
Making more money.
Yeah, I'll take it.
Of course, yes, I am making more money, but at the same time, I feel good about what I'm doing, because we are genuinely helping people. It's not about the bottom line at the end of the day. There's people out there that, yeah, not everyone's looking for a deal. Some people actually just need guidance on what they're even doing, and we can provide people with that. And it's frankly, it's a good service.
And you believe that, don't you?
Absolutely.
All right. So what is the service? I'll go back to you. And I know Sarah's coming out of another culture. So Sarah, it will take a little bit of time to introduce these new concepts, as it did to this gang here too. We're not throwing the baby out with the bathwater. It's still about, when the time is right, going after it. But I think, Dave, keep going a little bit deeper with this, because I really would like to hear, and if you have an idea or you could give us a general script with your beats, I think everybody would really want to hear that at this moment.
Who is this, Dave?
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if I could do that.
Well, take a shot. I'll take the narrative.
Well, I mean, hitting the beats is more important than the actual words. Verbiage is important and scripting is important, but what'll happen is if you're just too scripted, there's no heart in it and you'll miss your beat.
Good. Give me your beats.
And people
Give me your beats. I'll bite.
Can I jump in and add something to that?
Yeah, go ahead.
So I think one thing we're so focused on is reading and trying to get the information out of based on your timing and motivation. You have to really dig deep and understand if they can give you an answer that's vague, but you have to go back and find out what their real timeline is, what their real motivation is. And based on that, that's gonna change the route of your conversation. And really stopping and actually listening and not just trying to get the next question out makes the world of a difference.
So Sarah, give me an idea what that sounds like for you. And then I'll come back to you, Dave, for your beats. Sarah, go ahead, since you're in the hot seat. Go ahead.
So if I ask somebody, so are you thinking of making a move for this spring? Well, I'm not really sure. Maybe by the time school's done and the kids are out, I might be thinking about then. I'll ask a few more questions. And then I'll circle back and ask them something like, well, we do have access to pocket listings. We currently have about 12 pocket listings, but we come from an office that has 200 different agents. So at any given time, I can actually share with you a deal that may or may not match exactly what you're looking for, but it might uncover a really interesting deal. If something like that came to your inbox, do you think that's something you might move on? So then when they hear something like that, that might change their timeline a bit. They don't actually give me, maybe 3 months, or they don't give me an actual number. I always try to really go back and pinpoint when they can actually make a move, in the position to make a move on it. If a really interesting deal came into your lap.
Okay.
So that's an example of me trying to really pinpoint and hammer out that timeline.
Okay. And does it help you?
Absolutely.
Okay.
And not just, I think when I started doing inside sales, and obviously you get the template of what you need to ask, which is very simple, but then people, the way they answer you, they're going to give you, the thing is with these conversations, you're going to have these conversations 20 different ways. Mm-hmm. It's all the same information. It's just, you have to listen and really understand what they're telling you.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Okay.
And
so let's go back to the offer though. Let's go back. I want to go to an offer. So you're using technique and tactic to find timing. I'm in. I'll bite. But now what I'm looking for is that Pat, come back to me. Dave, come back to me for a second here and give me the beats on the tail of what she just said. Give me the beats that you're trying to hit.
Well, the beat is a pass or fail. Do I know their timing and motivation?
Okay. And
once I know that, then I'm prepared to give an offer to someone. Sometimes if someone's motivation seems low and their timing's too far out, there's no offer to be given. The offer is, I can give you a market update in 6 months, check in with you, see how you're doing, that sort of thing. But there's no, I can do something for you right now for all people.
All right, good. I like that. Hold on. I like that. And you're bold enough to say it. Where do you feel like there's and again, there's always some offer, even if it's light. Hey, sounds like you're not going to do anything for a year. Would it be okay if I touch base with you next year? Sure. Right? You know what I mean?
Exactly.
But there's not going to be some heavy triple down on it. But in the same breath, let me come back to what Sarah's saying. Sarah's saying if she digs another layer under the onion, they might reveal their plans a little bit more, or would any circumstance, as she presented it to that person, change their timing, which is possible. A circumstance could change somebody's timing. So I think somewhere blended between those two, technique and tactic, and genuinely respecting what they say, is probably where Goldilocks chooses the bed, right? Somewhere in the middle. Yeah. It's somewhere in the middle.
I think we get so focused on trying to get in the call, let's book that appointment, do whatever you can to book that appointment. Yeah. I think you have to kind of step away and be respectful of, how can I help this person? Either it's going to turn into an appointment, which is great. That's the best case scenario. But then you think, if I can't do that right now, I can be the best ISA in the world. But if they're not ready and they're not motivated, then it's not going to turn into anything.
Well, it's also a bad appointment. Let's just say your technique and tactic is good enough. Let's say you get
appointment selling,
right.
Basically.
Yeah, right. Let's say you could get taught to get a yes no matter what. The problem that Metro City had and everybody else I've ever trained that went for appointments is a horrendous no-show up rate. Because you can get so good at technique and tactic to get a yes in the heat of the moment. And then somebody comes to and they recognize, why did I even say yes? My timing and motivation is absolutely not now. And now I'm freaked out. Now I'm embarrassed. I said yes. Here she is calling me again saying, where are you? And now prospects pursued, run away. Now she's dead forever. Now I am the cause of lost business.
She's lost control. That's why.
Right.
The
So,
client has to be fooled into thinking they have control at all times.
right. So coming back to that, let me come back to this offer. The money and consistency in real estate agency is made over the long run. Okay. The wonderful part of it is when you have technique and tactic and offer and timing all collide in a perfect storm. So that buyer calls off of an application where they're really out looking at houses like a sign call. So in the States, Zillow became sort of the digital sign call. You get those types of leads, you pick up the phone, somebody wants to see the property, you oblige because that's what you signed up for, right? If you're going to get those types of leads, they expect you to get off your seat, go down and show it. As we said yesterday, you make the best use of that and say, would it also be to your benefit if we saw a couple of others in the area that are available that are like this? Yes, great, set them up, awesome. Or no, just this one, okay? But now you come to this internet lead where you have this situation where most of these people are not the sign call digitally. They're not calling off the street. They just began to think about this online and they were willing to give you their currency, okay? So on average, there's no rocket science in stating that many of these people are down the line. And they're, Dave, quite frankly, most of them aren't ready to meet with you right then and there. Would you agree with that or not?
Absolutely.
The vast majority of people are just in the preliminary stages.
Good. All right.
So if someone's in, go ahead.
No. So I was going to say now, both of you, let's just get off of technique and tactic. I like everything I've heard from both of you. But now I want to get into that offer moment where somebody is not ready to go. And I want you to tell me in your own narrative forms, they are over 6 months. Let's just pick that category because we've just all agreed there's a lot of opportunity in that category. And quite frankly, for all these big teams like yours or companies, that's its sustainability. That's its growth engine. It's not the appointments because they're getting harder and harder to get quick ones as the consumer starts earlier than ever before online. That's just a phenomenon of the digital age, right? So the very business has changed to the extent I can think about moving way earlier than ever before on my mobile phone. And to get access to what I want when I start, I'm going to give my currency, my name, my email, my phone number. I'm going to give it to you. But that doesn't make my timing shorter. It makes my process actually longer. And I start with you earlier. So I think that's just a reality. I'm not saying it's always, but on average, digital age did that to us with internet buyer leads in particular, right? Now you come forward to this moment where you ask all the questions the way you two do. You're both professional with different styles. I love it. But my question to you each is give me the narrative form of the offer that each of you would make. Dave, you go first. Sarah, you go second. I want to hear the narrative form of the offer you make for long-term follow-up. Why would they continue in a relationship with you? What's in it for them over the long run and continuously? Go ahead, Dave.
Well, if someone's just in the preliminary stages, I will send them properties that match their needs at this time with the knowledge and even saying to them, look, I know you're in the preliminary stages right now, but if I do send you a few properties that do match your criteria at this point, just so you can see what's available on the market, I think it's still a good value because people that are still trying to figure out what they're looking for, if they can see what's out there and what that price point is, it gives them, since it's just preliminary data, it gives them a starting point at least. Because there's this expectation a lot of people have where they think, okay, I'm going to spend, $300,000 and I'm going to get a townhouse in Canada or, you know, a particular neighborhood. And a lot of people have unrealistic expectations. So if you show them how the market's working, that is value right there. And you say, look, the 300,000 price point, you're probably going to pay closer to 4 for what you're looking for. So that knowledge alone is good. So they at least can prepare financially for that, or what have you, or maybe even adjust their expectations, and it changes their timeline if they know that. So sending that preliminary data at that
another
point.
good nugget. Hold on. Really, what you said was just like hits my soul the right way. Okay, what you just said, you know, all that they can make that adjustment. It gives them a sense of reality, right? And it can change their timing. See, the lack of knowledge, Sarah, can kick the can down the road. In other words, if I don't, and this goes back to what Voltaire, I was actually surprised he said that. If you don't know what you're pre-qualified for, you're lost. Once you get pre-qualified, if you don't know how that translates into what type of property, you're lost. So the two mega beats are actually around the financial end of this business as a buyer. So what Dave is saying is his value up front, the very first offer is, let me send you some properties, okay? And educate you, and you didn't say it, but I'm gonna say it for you, what the money actually buys. See, what you're describing costs $400,000 in Canada. I'll prove that to you by showing you in the last 30 to 60 days, the sales in and around 400,000 in Canada. You'll see what I'm saying. I'll also show you the 350 that you expected maybe you would pay and how much less that gives you. Now, you might be fine with the 350 because paying that amount of money is what relates to what you're comfortable in a payment. Fine. Then we'll find the best deal in that category. Or you're willing to step up, talk to your banker, and get pre-approved for this. Everything just got real mathematically. See, we're leaving them out there, Dave, to go about that piece of it on their own. It's this crazy abdication that happens in this world with realtors. Number one, we abdicate our lead generation to a third party without ever asking what they said to get the lead. That's the first scary thing. The second scary thing is we farm them off to a lender without really digging in to see, I get what they qualified for, but what are they comfortable with? And then matching that up with the properties that are there. That is what I would refer to, Dave, as your insight. So the very first moment that you send that to them to set that relationship deeper is that one-off event. Now, what I want to see is part of your offer expanded to continuously speaking. So in other words, if Dave, you say, here's what I'm going to do. Sounds great. You're 6 months out. But it's never too early to get prepared financially. So what I'm going to do is I listen to what your criteria is, okay? I'm going to send you a list of what that looks like in Canada in this price range. And I think what you probably pay attention to is that it might be a little bit more expensive than you think. Now, I'm not sure where you stand with that lender. If they've really given you a thorough pre-approval or not, it's worth getting that done. And I can follow up to see what they really said and what you're comfortable with. Of course, if you'd like a second opinion from our folks, we'd love to make that referral too. Once those two things are together, I think you're going to feel a lot better about the direction you're going as a buyer in this marketplace. You'll be empowered and you'll be in control. And my job is to guide you to be empowered and in control of this major financial transaction. So I gave a lot more verbiage to what you are already doing and what you said. And I think it's why you're enjoying it more, because you really are serving people. But the thing that I'm still looking for, and you can answer me on this, and Sarah, you can jump in after him, is now I've got to go through, you did that perfectly, and I took it further. So they have that one-off moment. But what about the next 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 months, Dave? How do they continuously get updates on property so they can see the direction of the market, updates on the general market in Ottawa? And how do you stay relevant to them over such a long period of time? I think that has to be the second beat in the offer. First one is, here's what I'm going to send you. Here's why it benefits you. But here's what I'm going to continuously do over the next number of months. How do you maintain continuity?
So basically, I would refer to the information that I already had sent them on that day, and then in 3 months or 6 months, what have you, I would look at those properties and give them final data about them. Because for starters, most of those properties are going to be sold. So I could say, this was the list price. This is how much they accepted. So they can say, it'll give them even more information about those properties at that time. So what we'll know in 3 months is, let's say it listed at a particular price and it sold for a higher price than the list point. What does that tell us? That there was a high demand for that property in that market, and more than likely, since I've been paying attention to the market, I can see that you're probably going to end up in a multiple offer situation for a home like that in that neighborhood. So once the data is concrete in 3 months and we have all the sales data about it, I can add to the data that I've already provided them and expand on it. And then at that point, we can refine their search. So if they're still looking for that particular property at that particular price point, we can stay with that, send them even more properties, and go about our business that way. Or we can say, just listen to them. And if they say, based on what you've provided me with the data, I think that now I'm going to be looking at, X instead of Y.
Okay,
and just
good.
carry it from there.
Okay, good. Now, my question is, in Canada, because I know your rules have been slowly changing, slower than the States, do you not have the ability to make an offer to put somebody into MLS right now to continuously get updates of properties that fit their criteria? Do you not?
Yes, and I definitely do that for some people. But some people's motivation, I feel, isn't there, and I don't want to bombard them with
Good. Okay, good.
email.
I'll bite. I want to discuss the ones that are motivated, because I agreed with you. If the motivation's not there and they're just wasting, time, and you've done, like Sarah said, another layer or two of the onion, I'm good. You got to make a business decision at some point in time that there are people that are starving for your help today. And if you put too many of those people that aren't in the way, you lose business. Okay. So I'm good there, but I want you to keep me inside the 12 months where people are definitely going to do something. Tell me what the offer would be like to set them up with continuity of properties, which is what they want. They will allow you to serve them, presuming that your delivery of these properties is there as part of it, if they have motivation and they like you. So tell me what that sounds like.
Well, I mean, it's basically setting them up on a search on the MLS. I was confused about the question. Sorry.
Yeah, because I get it. I get you're confused. And this is precisely the problem with the offer, okay? All the enthusiasm you just had for that initial conversation gets lost when I ask you to give me the offer for long-term continuity of what they want. Okay, it gets lost. Sarah's never been trained in it. Okay, heavily been trained in it, of course, but not heavily. And this is what I'm trying to say to people. Think about it this way. If you are a buyer, let's go to them. They're the hero of the story. Go to their side of the story. If you're a buyer and you're looking to buy a property, okay, and you can get properties presumably anywhere online, why am I going to allow you to follow up? One, you can give it to me directly from MLS. 2, you can include solds. 3, you can include off-market things such as expireds, cancels, withdrawals. 4, if you want to go further, pocket listings. 5, you will continue to follow up with me and add your insights so I know over the next 12 months the direction of the market and what my money's buying, okay? Because today, my money might buy more. If interest rates begin to climb up, my money buys less, unless there's a subsequent correction in pricing because interest rates are going up. I need to know that from somebody. So that's got to be you. You tracking me?
Yeah, I think it's just the specific verbiage that I use when I give an offer is different based on the client. So I don't have like a exact scripted 100% saying that I'm going to say
You
exactly
should.
the same every single
You
time.
should. I caught somewhere finally that I believe you should. This is where I think a script matters, the offer. I think it's a big time important thing. I think you have gotten too far down the rabbit hole with their particular situation, and that ends up letting tail wag the dog a wee bit, Dave. Okay? Here's what I mean by that. They want something. That's properties. They need something. That's your insight. Okay? Got it? They want something. Properties. The convenience of delivery of properties into their inbox through MLS, including all the stuff we just mentioned, is a massive convenience to them. Why would you be offering something different to anybody? Guys, 4 months, guys, 12 months. What is different? I'm confused myself. What would you be offering me differently if I was 4 versus 12?
I guess something that's more longer term is not looking for an updated list of homes weekly or bi-weekly. Usually what I've been saying is somebody is, well, we're not really thinking about doing anything until the end of the year. I'll say, you know what, why don't I send you our Market Watch newsletter? I'd love to keep you in touch with what's going on in our marketplace. We throw in some really cool articles, like some of our pocket listings, some of the events we're doing, like our buyer seminar, first-time home buyer seminar. Would it be if I followed up with you maybe later this summer to see how your search is going?
Okay.
And then
I'm going to push back. I'm going to push back because I learned about the same Market Watch newsletter you did. It's crap. If you want my frank opinion, it's crap. There's nothing in it for me. Right? It's just it's a nebulous offer about, nonsense. You know what's not? What's really happening in the market. On a monthly basis, Sarah, what's the price per square foot? What's the average price? What's the average days on market if I'm selling? That's all extremely pertinent information that can be given. So my adjustment to the newsletter information is much more simple, straightforward, and what we're responsible for. How's the market, Sarah? I'm thinking about me. Now, that's a wrong answer, right? It's a wrong answer. And because it's nebulous and it makes you just like everybody else, and somebody else with just as nice a tone of voice can say the same thing. I don't want you there. I want you to be the go-to expert. Danny, you know what? Let me tell you this. The average price is way up. Okay, it's at $690,000 on the Cape, but the problem is the middle number is still down around 390, 410. So what that tells you, Danny, is the market is excellent at the very high end because it's skewing everything up. But the middle of the market, where you're priced from 600 to 800, is going to be a challenge. So you're really going to need a strategy, and I'm happy to come out and coach you on that before you get started. That is way more specific, and you'll lose to it every day. So we have to get away from these nebulous, cloudy offers and have to get back focused on what's important to this person going forward. Hey, Sarah, you know what I can do is I can put you on our email list. And what'll happen is every single month, you will get the exact answer to how's the market. But of course, that's the general Ottawa market. What I'm going to be doing is sending you properties from the MLS that are selling in that area that you want to buy in. It's important to watch the trend. Is it going up for that type of property or down? And the other variable is this interest rate thing, okay? So please get with my lender, get pre-qualified now, and from time to time, based on your timing, I'm going to be following up, making sure you're aware. Interest rates are going up or down, prices are going up or down, because that's what matters to you. That's just way more specific, Sarah, right? Now.
No, I like that. It's a bit more sophisticated.
Yeah. Well, because, and again, I get where you're coming from, by the way. I'm not picking on you. You come from the same world I come from. And we get in this routine of repeating this stuff and we never challenge it, right? We just don't. Well, I've been gone from that routine a long time, and I got myself back again, realizing I'm the guide and I do what you actually said. I listen to these consumers. And I found that these consumers, and I was surprised that Voltaire, again, I'll say it again, said like that thing about solds. Yeah, maybe my language was confusing, but what's more important to a buyer than seeing what they could buy? And Dave just said the same thing. If I send you a list of properties, here's what you could buy right now. Well, how do I know that? You look at the solds. You don't look at the actives. The actives have absolutely nothing to do with what something actually sells for. The only thing that matters in this business, to tell us the truth, on the buy side and the sell side, is sold. And the only person that can really get that to you, go over that with you, and tell you what that means on a macro and a micro level is us. That's the value here. So what I'm trying to get you all to understand is, just like Colleen pattern interrupt me in my own company, going forward, it's me getting you market updates on Ottawa, getting you specific updates on what your money is buying. That is everything to the process. Does that make sense, Sarah?
No, that's really good. I like that.
Yeah.
You have to learn that your conversation has to evolve. And I think that's one of the biggest reasons why I was looking for a change.
Yeah.
I mean, I think I studied and I knew that Craig Proctor script like to a T, and it's breaking out of that mold and learning how to have these conversations a bit smarter. So I'm not wasting that conversation.
Yeah. Well, it's a game of telephone. Let me explain historically what these scripts are. And I'm with Voltaire. I hope he heard me loud and clear say to Dave, I didn't like where Dave's offer went, because Dave was very scripted for a certain point, and then it wasn't when it came to the offer. So I'm not so much worried about like the universal callback script. Mike Ferry did something to that extent. He trained Proctor. He had some edits to it. And then it's like a game of telephone. And then nobody questions it. I'm here to question it. And I'm here to question it, trying to take the perspective of the consumer, saying, what's most important to the consumer? What offer can you make to the consumer that really is in it for them? And Dave nailed it, but then he didn't offer it. Right, Dave? It's crazy. You nailed it. You put a harpoon through the center of the bullseye with what you were saying. But then when I went to ask you, you're so trained, in the new way of doing it, you even forgot how to articulate it. So in other words, you're acting it, but you don't know how to succinctly say it in a moment of time. Danny, let me just tell you this. Going forward, that one-off list I gave you, I'm going to be sending that to you in slow drip form. So in other words, every time something sells in your price range, you get it in your email. You'll know. That will keep you updated on what you can buy. And I will from time to time call you, tell you what's globally happening in Ottawa. We'll talk about the interest rates and your pre-approval. And then when you're ready, I want to get an agent out there with you right away so you can actually see this stuff rather than just look at it online. Now, Dave, I regurgitated that back at you with enthusiasm that matches the enthusiasm you showed me about what you're doing, but you're just not bringing it to an offer for the future. You got me. You treated me right. I'm leaning in. Close me for the next 12 months. You follow?
Follow.
Yeah, because you got it, man. Like you had it down cold. I was leaning in. I'm like yelling amen to the choir, right? But then when I went to say, come on, like tell me it's going to be okay for the next 12 months too. You're not going to leave me at the altar here. We just started this relationship. I'm going to give you permission only if you make me a good, solid offer that you're going to be following up. And you don't need my permission anymore. That's where you can lean in. I said, yes, that would be great. If you could send me that, I'm totally intrigued, right? Awesome. Send it on over. Hey, Danny, going forward, it gets even better. I can send these to you automatically. I'll look at them, from week to week, month to month, and I'll call you and tell you what I think it means for the direction of the market, which might actually help you speed up or, be patient, whatever it is you decide. Because you were right. Their timing, everybody hear me say this. I'll lean in and I'll be quiet. Their timing will indeed shorten if you empower them with information to make a decision sooner. Their timing will shorten if you empower them with information that helps them make a clearer decision quicker. It happens all the time to us. I had no idea. They say, I had no idea. You know why, Sarah? We keep calling and saying, are you ready? Are you ready? Well, I don't know. I'm trying to figure it out with my own bank. I'm trying to I drove by a couple, but I'm confused. We don't dive in, grab the bull by the horns and say, I can handle this for you. My value is to educate you. So Sarah, there's your first introduction. You listen to Dave, whose evolution, the guy's saying, I'm happier and I'm making more money. And it hasn't been that long since I introduced Tarek, Steve, and Sarah Corey to this, right? And Dave, you haven't had this kind of dialogue in your head for that long either. How long?
I've been doing this for about a year now.
Okay, and dude, I'll take the fact that you're happy. I love the fact that you're making more money on top of it. And I think that's enthusiasm. Your next level of learning is get the enthusiasm for the offer. And Sarah, breathe, breathe, and consider a different way of saying it rather than just repeat it. Test, right? Nobody says stop. I never say that to anybody. I just inject other ways to think based on my discovery through this mastermind work and my own work with my own team. I'm trying to discover what the consumer likes the best and will reward us with their business. Hear me say that. This is extremely practical. This is not theoretical. So what I'm saying is breathe, split test what you're saying, and see what happens. But like Dave, role play back and forth, the two of you with Pat, all three of you, role play the offer for continuous service going forward. That way, guys and gals, when you pick up the phone and call me back 3 months from now, you're not a pest. You're not just asking me what's in it for you. You're saying, hey, I've been sending these properties. I see that they're getting to you. Did you see this one? Our buyer just got a killer deal on that one. Did you see it? I got 86 by somebody. That means we're over time, right?
Yes.
Pat, Sarah, you got me?
Yeah, we're here.
Yeah, good? We good?
Yep.
Yeah. I'm proud of you, Dave. You come a long way, brother. And Sarah, I already know you're a stud. I'm trying to introduce you. I'm trying to introduce you to some new ways of thinking that will only accelerate how good you already are, right? And I hope.
No, absolutely. I really appreciate it. Thank you.
Yeah, you bet. And I hope, like Dave, it kind of sets you free a little bit to be that more authentic, caring woman who just said to me, Danny, I needed a change. That's why I'm here. Okay. I think you'll find the same in the longer run, that this can be a much more enjoyable way to do it, and you'll do better. Don't need to do this on muscle. We need to be better servants of these people.
Mm-hmm.
Voltaire, anything to add there, brother? Any thoughts?
Do we have it? Do we have the script?
I do.
Good?
I do. What I referenced to you, I wrote out. You personally, I'll put it in your email. For the rest of you, I'll post it where we belong, right? Cool?
Sounds good.
Yeah. And Voltaire, you know, Sarah, Dave, we got to now go get some recorded calls about this, right? Because the only way we're all going to know if we're on the right track is let's get some recorded calls, let's bang them around, and let's refine the heck out of this thing and really get it right. Let's keep working on it. I think this bravo to all three of you for bringing it to, ahead. It needs attention, and here we are. So good job today, everybody, for participating, and let's see what happens. Get me some recorded calls, the three of you, and we'll break them down. We'll see how it works, okay?
Sounds good.
Awesome.
Thanks, Danny.
All right, everybody.
Thanks, Danny.
Bravo. Have a super weekend. You bet. My pleasure.
It was a good one.
Hold on.
The conference is now completed. Goodbye.